Hey, I'm your host, BKP. Good morning from downtown Blue Ridge, Georgia. It's a great fall morning. Come up and visit us this weekend. Kind of weather to walk around town, look at the leaves. Just beautiful, beautiful downtown, all the shops. We're at Blue Jeans Pizza here in Blue Ridge, Blue Jeans Pizza. I think they're making a breakfast pizza. That's the rumor, a breakfast pizza. We have coffee. And I'm here with Dr. Whaley, and I was so looking forward to this segment because Dr. Whaley, I knew the jacket would be on today and the hat was coming out. And thank you, first of all, let me say thank you, and the tie. Thank you, Dr. Whaley, and we honor all of our veterans here, and we thank you very much. This is our Ask the Doc segment with Dr. William Whaley, and we want to thank Georgia Cancer Specialists for this segment. How are you, sir?
I'm great. I'm doing really good. I was so excited to hear you say there twice in one breath that you get confused. Sam, you remember that? I get confused, and you said it twice.
Did I?
You did, and then then I noticed that you'd gone and rented a coat. You could be all dressed up for your city council. I thought that was good. I'll come back to the confused in just a minute. And then you weren't going to go there out of honor to the I guess 70 maybe 90 people in this community who have been out of work for a decade. I don't know, it seems to me like it was last year. It could have been 12 that worked at the Levi plant. And Mr. Trump yesterday didn't really say that I'm going to bring a Levi plant back to Blue Ridge, but he did say that we're going to make our trade imbalance a little bit better. And so I'm just echoing everything you did this morning. I believe that he's been presidential. I really think having the teleprompter helps because he has not been in the least bit bombastic. He hasn't had any of those stand up and look inflated things. He's just looked serious and on message, and he hadn't tried to make any kind of jokes that might go the wrong way because he's against a different culture. I mean, I think it's been absolutely beautiful, and I think it's so much different. If you could show the apology tour and this thing with clips back and forth for Obama's trip through Egypt and the Middle East and his trip through Asia and go bang, 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 it would be wonderful. But anyway, we're not here to talk about that.
Okay, I'm listening.
Are we here to talk? Are we here?
We can talk about that.
Okay, and one other thing we ought to talk about.
Okay.
Is the issue of Judge Moore, because you brought that up and you hit it. I think you hit that right on the head. The times they have changed, and up until Ronald Reagan, who had been divorced, he was only married for a very, very short time, and then he had a very solid marriage for many years, and the world sort of forgave him. It was kind of like being pinned or going steady as the population has evolved. But there have been a whole lot of sociological writings. I think people have done their PhD thesis on the fact that there were all sorts of infidelities in the White House for hundreds of years, and they were kept quiet. You know, now they come back and say Kennedy had 100 of these, and they put a lot of effort into giving credit to the Clintons for maintaining a look of a marriage that obviously everybody knows was shattered years ago and hadn't been a marriage for years. So you had two presidents who became widowed while they were in the White House, and they remarried while they were in the White House. Totally acceptable, because that'd been going on for generations. We talked once before about women died in childbirth, and Civil War veterans would live to be 70 years old, and they'd be on their third or fourth wife, and they'd have these 3 or 4 families from these different wives. But so all that socialistic stuff, excuse me, not socialistic, but our understanding of the difference in the culture, whenever Judge Moore was a 32-year-old veteran, and whatever happened then, either happened or didn't happen, but it isn't worth the fluff it's getting today. I was just over there giving my hug to Sam, and I said, Sam, is this appropriate or inappropriate? If I run for office, are they likely to get me for hugging you when I come in here?
Yeah, I'm waiting.
Anyway, so
I'm
that's
just waiting.
Yeah,
I'm gonna blast it out that you went over and hugged her and said good morning, and I want you to stop coming in here and being nice to them.
Okay. Well, that's right. But basically, the second part of that is, if you look at the timing, which is what, 5 weeks before the election, it's a little bit different in scale, but it's not in scale, but it's not much different from the bus incident with the TV thing about Trump before the election. Everybody said, "Oh, that's going to kill the poor guy." Came out right before the election and whew, didn't do a thing. People knew it for what it was. I really don't believe that this will alter the outcome of the election in the state of Alabama. I think the people in Alabama know the man, and I think that it's going to be fine.
Well, I hope for everything that the young lady didn't make an accusation that's not true. I hope we don't find out later on that the Washington Post affiliate and the Washington Post did not put something out as some kind of October surprise for December election.
Yep.
And that we find out a year from now something else. So
November to surprise for a December election.
Right.
That's exactly. Even worse.
Exactly. So we probably better move on.
Think so?
Yeah, I don't want to get in trouble. I'm okay right now.
Well, this first question.
Treading on glasses, the ice is.
Yeah, but okay. All right, but anyway, you did say you get confused. And you did go out and rent a coach so you could do the fancy program.
I feel you're going somewhere with this, so I'm waiting.
Go ahead. No, go ahead. I'm ready. This is a good
I
question.
can't pronounce this. I think I have.
Go ahead.
What?
Okay.
What's the word?
Aquagenic pruritus.
I think I have aquagenic pruritus. What I said when I looked up my symptoms, I have intense itching after a shower, with no visible skin irritation. I have had this for years. I have tried to modify diet without wheat, and it helps some. Have you ever heard of this disorder? What can I do to find relief or even actually a diagnosis?
Well, this opens up such a great area of discussion that I will go first to the aquagenic pruritus. I saw 3 patients this week who have aquagenic pruritus. It just so happens that I'm a hematologist and a cancer doctor, and aquagenic pruritus means that when you take a shower, you get intense itching, and it is, no pictures yet, Sam, and it is an absolute hallmark, almost like baby kicking in your stomach says you're pregnant, of a myeloproliferative disorder, a real hematologic disease of polycythemia vera, myelofibrosis, chronic myelogenous leukemia, or central thrombocytosis. That's really a disease. Okay, now, there, Sam, flip up that chart if you would, please. Sam's going to put up a chart. You're not going to be able to read it very well, but it's about 10 different categories of I itch. And each of those categories of I itch are signs of significant medical issues, generally most of the time, and that they deserve a visit to your doctor. Now the problem is most physicians, family physicians or even internists, if they're not slap up to date, aren't going to get that one about I itch when I take a shower or I get in the swimming pool, and they will not be able to make that diagnosis. But generally an itching disorder can be something wrong with your skin, and then you might see something you might not. But kidney disease, liver disease, thyroid disorder, diabetes, endocrine disorders can make your skin itch without any kind of a rash. Various types of infections, like children with pinworms and things of that sort, if you're an adult, can make your skin itch. Autoimmune disorders like rheumatoid arthritis, we've talked about that. Before you ever get any joint swelling or anything else, you can itch. And a huge amount of the itching, unfortunately, is psychogenic disorders or psychiatric disorders. So the itching when I'm in water is a specific itch. I take a shower, it doesn't have to terribly be hot. It's got, as soon as I get in, I start to burn and I start to itch. The toweling doesn't help, you know. Sometimes you would, well, you know, if you itch from sunburn beginning to heal, you just love to get that towel on there and scratch it. Toweling makes this worse, not better. And if you actually have that and it's persistent for months at a time, you got to go see a doctor and get checked out. And that's enough of that.
Okay.
Except that, no. The skin is...
That confused me a little.
It did, but it was a great question. The skin is a mirror of what's inside. And lots of things in the skin, to an astute diagnostician, and every internist or family practitioner is not, can be a sign of an occult internal disorder. I'll give you a couple of quick ones. There are little red spots that can occur on your skin that are the manifestations of aging. But there's another one that looks a little bit like a spider web, and if you take a pencil and go straight to the center of it and touch it, it blanches out. That's called a spider angioma. Well, that means you drank too much, you had hepatitis, and something wrong with your liver. And, well, I'm just saying. And then, like the fingernails, we talked about the fingernails, clubbing the fingernails. I can sit at a table and look at somebody eating a meal in a restaurant and say he's got lung cancer because of what happens in his fingernails. And so there are huge books written about the dermatologic manifestations of occult disease. But this question, whoever wrote it or whoever looked it up, didn't really realize that they really were hitting on something very important there. Anyway,
okay. Well, let's move to one I may understand. This one I may understand.
Well, I think you might.
What are the effects of drinking alcohol while taking antibiotics? Okay. No, sir.
Oh, wait a minute.
Wait a minute. No, what are the effects of drinking alcohol while taking antibiotics? Someone told me if I drank alcohol, it would make them ineffective.
The issue with alcohol and antibiotics has nothing to do with effect. First of all, if you're sick enough for an antibiotic, you ought not feel like you want to drink alcohol, to be honest with you. And we do know that people overuse antibiotics, and you see all of this publicity about don't give an antibiotic for the common cold, don't suspect that you should take an antibiotic for the flu. It leads to antibiotic-resistant bacteria. They get in your gut. They cause that C. difficile colitis we were talking about a couple of weeks ago, and you die. So you shouldn't have taken that antibiotic in the first place. So if you're really sick and you really need that antibiotic, you're not supposed to feel like you drink anyhow. Now, here's the issue with the drinking. There are very, very few people that have antibiotic and alcohol reactions, kind of like we were talking about Native Americans who drink alcohol and flush. So there are a few people who take Flagyl, tetracycline, or a few of those, and will have a flushing reaction from the alcohol and the drug. There are a few people, and now I'm talking about few, I'm talking about 0.5% or 1% that will get a headache with alcohol and an antibiotic they would not otherwise have gotten. And then the third one is a racing heartbeat. But that is less than 0.5%. The reason they tell you not to drink is that the side effects of the alcohol, regular side effects, and side effects of the antibiotic, nausea, vomiting, feeling bad, don't tell the doctor which it is, and so he doesn't, you know, it's sort of, if I give you an antibiotic today and you call the office tomorrow and you say I stayed up all night and I was nauseated and I had diarrhea, they got to tell you to stop the antibiotic. What you didn't say was I had a 12-pack and I watched Georgia play Alabama on television. So it's just simpler to tell people while you're taking an antibiotic, don't drink alcohol because I won't have to deal with any of the things that can happen with the alcohol while I'm focusing on this. But it's not because the alcohol diminishes the effectiveness of the antibiotic at all. It's just that the side effects or what happens with alcohol will confuse the ability to say it didn't happen when I gave the antibiotic.
Okay.
Did that make sense?
I guess.
Sam, did that make sense?
Yes.
Did it?
Okay. One more thing. If I give you 3 medications on the same day, and a reaction happens, I don't know which one it was. So my style is, if I'm going to be giving you a series of 2 drugs for high blood pressure, for example, then I will tell you take pill number 1 for a week before you add pill number 2. I mean, it's not going to make a great difference in the overall scheme of things that you started them both on the same day. And that way, if you get lightheaded or something, your heart beats fast with the first drug, I know it was it. If I had both of them, I'm not going to know which one it was. Well, that's sort of the same thing with alcohol and an antibiotic. If you're taking them at the same time, I'm going to confuse what caused what.
Okay, let's go to the last one.
You're going to love this one.
I'm going to love this one.
All right, go.
You're going to love this one out there. Somehow I feel that I'll be involved in this one. I read about experimental Alzheimer's tests that can detect early stages of the disease. Are these really helpful?
Well, the question answered itself. Read it back one more time, slow, and think about it.
I read about experimental...
Stop right there. Okay. I read about experimental. First of all, if it's an experiment, regardless of what it is, it hasn't been proven yet.
Okay.
Okay, that's number 1. Number 2, if you've got an experimental something that made it to the front page of the National Enquirer, or perish forbid, got on Facebook where my wife could see it, or somebody tweeted about it, and the tweet was clever, and it got in tweet land, then somebody is going to find a way to capitalize on that for a profit for absolutely no scientific value. Are you with me still?
Yes.
Okay, let's go to
that part didn't confuse me.
Okay, on television every day, you see these really good ads, and they show this person who looks clearly like she's from the Mediterranean. It says, I did my 23andMe and I discovered that I'm Scandinavian, American, Indian, and something else, and I'm hardly any Italian at all, 23andMe. So it has our public thinking about the genetic profiling of my background, and I may think that I'm Scotch or Irish, and when I do it, I discover that I'm North African and whatever. So people were seizing on this idea of genes. So this first thing I'm going to hit on was one of the Alzheimer things that probably is going to be helpful in some way is that genetic sequencing of the whole genome of a person. There are a couple of genes in there that are statistically linked with Alzheimer's disease. Now, as you know, the human genome is complicated, but there is a company that is offering commercially, and doing so through YouTube or whatever it is, at $4,500 a test that you have to pay for to do the human genome test and tell you if you've got an increased statistical chance of getting Alzheimer's. Well, the insurance isn't going to pay for it. You pay the $4,500, and when it comes back and says you meet the statistical profile that says you might get early Alzheimer's, how are you going to feel? I mean, what in the world is that going to do for you? There's nothing you can do about it. That's number 1. There's not any kind of reversing you can do of your genetics, so it'd be stupid to even try or even know. And the increase in your incidence is only an increase of about 1.5 to 2%. And if you take 100 people and 5 of them are going to get tuberculosis, and you increase that to 7.5%, then you have increased by 50% the risk that somebody's going to get tuberculosis. Scares the group to death. But what you're really saying is 2.5% of these 100 people are going to get tuberculosis. Not half, okay? So now the Alzheimer percentage in the normal population is down here around 4%, 5%. And if this genetic predisposition changes that to 6 or 7, that shows a 50% or a 30% increase in the incidence of Alzheimer's in people who have that genetic change. What good is that going to do? I mean, and it sounds so sensational that the genetic profile demonstrates people who have a 50% higher chance of getting Alzheimer's. Well, that's still back here at 2.5% of 100. So I think you wasted your $4,500. It can't help you in the least. Now that's the big one. There's a couple of other ones. There's a trial blood test called the IRS. Sounds like Internal Revenue Service. And
I thought the IRS already did a blood test.
Yes, right. They did a wallet biopsy, and that's what they do. The IRS does not do blood tests. They do wallet biopsies only. So anyhow, this IRS test is a simple blood test. It measures the different types of fat in your blood, and not whether you're fat, but different types of fats in your blood that have nothing to do with cholesterol. And then it looks at the ratio of those fats. And again, that test is, you're talking about small percentage changes down here. It's not commercially available, and it's really a way out there screening test. But if it could do that, it would be a lot cheaper than genetic sequencing, which is thousands and thousands of dollars. And then the third one is, again, a genetic type test. It looks at RNA, a part of your cellular DNA, RNA stuff, and that's kind of the way you make diagnoses of AIDS. And remember, they were doing RNA for the Zika, when the Zika update. Anyhow, that's another highly technical thing, and it also is not commercially available. So the answer to the question was in the asking, and that is, I read about an experimental. Once you see that, you stop and say, let's wait until it's finished, and then we'll worry about it another day.
Okay, I don't know this person, but let's just put it like this. Let's just say I know somebody that, let me give you 3 things. Would this be early indicators? If you have your glasses on your head and you can't find them. That's one. What? Wait, the second one. If you're carrying your keys around in your hand and you can't find them. That's the second one.
And it happens more than twice a week.
And nobody told you to get involved.
Sorry.
I don't know how Sam knows who this person is. Okay? But all of a sudden Sam knows the person. So if you're carrying the keys around and you can't find them, and glasses on top of your head and you can't find them, and let's just say you're talking on the phone and you say, I got to get off here so I can find my phone. Is that just, what is that?
That's normal biologic behavior.
Write that down, normal biologic behavior, Sam.
Of people who are busy and have many irons in the fire at the same time.
Well, wait a minute. No. You know how you picked out the word experimental in this?
Yes.
And that was your trigger?
Yes.
My word in that was normal. Write that down.
All right.
Go ahead.
Well, you'll have on your expert panel today a very, very attractive and articulate woman who often,
thank you.
often wears 2 pairs of glasses to be able to read, because none of the one pair of glasses will work. And there would be 1 pair up here and 1 pair in the hand, and they're looking for the second pair of glasses to be able to read what's going on. And it might even happen on TV. So if it does, she doesn't have Alzheimer's.
We have to go. We want to thank the Georgia Cancer Specialist for always sponsoring this segment. But
Okay,
before we go,
we're gonna pull it out. You said we got to go to whatever is brand new that people really need to know.
what?
We always say you got something that you got off the news that people really need to know.
I want you to tell us just a minute about your hat. Can
Oh,
you
my
do that
hat.
for
Sure.
us?
Okay.
Yes. Tell us about your hat.
All right. This is a Veterans of Foreign War Life Member hat from the Post 6570, which is the Blue Ridge Post. I've actually got 3 of these hats because I'm a member of the Disabled American Veterans and the AMVETS. But these hats you'll see in the parade on Saturday, tomorrow at 11 o'clock. And the guys that are wearing these hats, you ought to stop and thank them.
Well, and the reason I wanted you to highlight the hat is because a lot of times we go to the veterans parades and we go to the ceremonies that they have honoring our veterans, and a lot of people see these hats and don't know what these hats actually are and what they symbolize.
All right. Interestingly, if you watch these hats tomorrow, look at the side here. This says VFW. That's Veterans of Foreign Wars. To get this, you have to have participated in a foreign war. People who didn't get, you'll see AMVETS here. And I have one that's Disabled American Veterans, and everybody knows I'm disabled, and so I'm a member of all 3.
Anything before we go? I don't want to close.
Yeah. Okay. Well, this is flu shot time.
I figured.
And yesterday, yesterday I had a fight with one of my patients and one of my daggum staff that they had read on the internet, which has got to be true, and had seen on YouTube, so it must be true, that the flu shot potency last year wasn't any good because it was grown on eggs, and it's always grown on eggs, so why should I bother to get a flu shot? And the truth of the matter is that one strain of the flu virus that's in the multiple flu virus shot is one that does not produce as well on eggs. So when you take that shot that's got 5 or 13 different flus in it, the potency against only one of those may be reduced. And it did happen that last year there was more of that one strain of flu than there had been in previous years. So that's not a reason not to take the flu shot. And this is going to be, as I said last week, a bad flu year. And the way we know it's going to be a bad flu year is it was the worst year in recorded history in Australia. Everybody's, well, that's a long way away. Well, it's what happens in Australia. Their winter time's just getting over, and they're going into spring, and that viral group's going to be here in the next few months. And if it was the worst in recorded history for them, it's going to be bad for us. Go get your flu shot.
Go get the flu shot?
Go get your flu shot.
Okay. Don't look at me like that. Don't look at me like that. You know who sends me those messages.
I do. But that was for me.
That was for
Get
me.
your flu shot.
Dr. Whaley says get your flu shot, and folks, there is really no excuse that you can't find somewhere to get the flu shot. They offer them almost everywhere you go, from the pharmacy to your doctor to, there's all kinds of clinics.
Yeah, I haven't seen the free one where you drive through the bank and they shoot you in the thing like they did last year.
I'm not for sure.
I always
on that.
liked that. I haven't seen it. Seriously, last year they did. You could go through the bank. Oh, they did. Okay. Well, the drive-through flu shots.
Drive-through flu shots.
Okay.
Folks, I'm your host, BKP. We're going to take a break. We're going to have a special segment when we return. You want to stay for that. At 9 o'clock, we're going to talk with the new 2018 council and mayor for the city of Blue Ridge. At 9:45, Jason Banks is going to be on here, Team FYN Sports. We're going to talk sports for the last 15 minutes of the show, and then we're going to slip in. A little bit of all-star panel today. We're going to get it in there because I've got some questions I want Bruce to answer. I want to get his opinion on. So I'm your host, BKP. Thank you for Georgia Cancer Specialist. To them, we'll be back right after these messages. Thank you, Dr. Whaley, and again, thank you for your service.